Number 10. Highlighting everything instead of key points. It feels productive. The soft squeak of the highlighter, the rainbow lines on the page. Your notes look alive, glowing with color. You think, this is how smart people study. But here's the hidden problem. When you highlight everything, you remember nothing. The human brain loves contrast. It learns by difference, by noticing what stands out. But if every line is marked, nothing stands out anymore. It's like turning every word in a book into a neon sign. Blinding, not enlightening. Highlighting is supposed to guide your focus, not decorate your insecurity. When you highlight blindly, you're outsourcing thinking to the pen. You're convincing yourself you've understood something simply because it looks touched. But comprehension isn't about color, it's about connection. The act of deciding what matters is where true learning happens. That's when neurons fire, merge, and form understanding. Highlighting everything is intellectual comfort food. It gives you the illusion of control, the illusion of progress. But behind that glowing page hides a passive brain, one that's watching, not working. You're not learning, you're labeling. The truth is, effective studying looks messier. It means highlighting only what sparks a question, what confuses, what explains, and writing your own thoughts next to it. It's about arguing with the text, not worshiping it. It's about making the book your battlefield, not your scrapbook. So next time your hand itches for the highlighter, pause. Ask yourself, what am I actually marking, the author's idea or my own laziness to think? Because knowledge that's highlighted everywhere lives nowhere. Number 9. Rereading texts instead of active recall. You open the same chapter again. The words look familiar. Your eyes glide over the paragraphs, and your brain whispers, yes, I remember this. It feels comforting, like visiting an old friend. But what you're really doing isn't learning. It's recognition, not recall. And that's the trap. Rereading tricks the mind with a false sense of mastery. Familiarity feels like understanding, but it isn't. You're not testing memory, you're just confirming sight. The mind mistakes repetition for retention. It's like watching a movie multiple times and believing you could act every line, until someone hands you the script. Active recall, on the other hand, is mental resistance training. It's uncomfortable, effortful, even frustrating, and that's exactly why it works. When you try to remember something without looking, your brain struggles, searches, reconstructs. That struggle is where memory gets cemented. Learning is not about seeing information again. It's about rebuilding it from within. Rereading, however, is easy, too easy. It lulls you into passive confidence. You think, I've seen this before, so I know it. But when the test arrives, recognition fails. The mind draws a blank because it never practiced pulling the knowledge out. It only practiced staring it in. The most intelligent learners treat forgetting as part of the process. They close the book, force themselves to recall key ideas, write them down from memory, and then check what they missed. Each failure builds a stronger neural path than any reread ever could. So next time you're tempted to reread the same paragraph one more time, stop, shut the book, ask yourself, what did I just learn without looking? If silence answers, that's not weakness. That's the doorway to real learning, the kind that sticks long after the ink fades. Number 8. Memorizing without understanding. You repeat it over and over, the formula, the date, the definition. It sticks for a while. You feel prepared. You can recite it flawlessly like a machine. But deep down, something's missing. You know what it says, but not why it matters. You've memorized the shape of truth, not its substance. Memorizing without understanding is like photographing a flame and thinking you've captured fire. You've kept the image, not the energy. The human brain doesn't thrive on storage. It thrives on structure. Real intelligence isn't about how much you can hold. It's about how deeply you can connect ideas. Facts without links are just clutter. They fade the moment life asks you to use them. Students fall into this trap because memorization feels concrete. You can count facts, recite lines, feel the weight of effort, but it's deceptive, a ritual of recall without reasoning. Understanding, in contrast, is abstract, slower, harder to measure. It forces you to dismantle concepts, ask why, build from first principles. It's the difference between repeating a song's lyrics and composing your own melody. When you truly understand something, it becomes elastic. You can stretch it, twist it, apply it anywhere. When you merely memorize, it's brittle. One forgotten word and it shatters. That's why people who chase grades often crumble in real-world tests. Life doesn't ask for definitions. It demands translation. Einstein once said, "Any fool can know. The point is to understand." Because knowledge that isn't digested becomes intellectual indigestion. Heavy, useless, and gone by morning. So next time you find yourself chanting notes like a mantra, pause. Ask, could I explain this to a 10-year-old? If not, you don't own the knowledge yet. You're just renting it for the exam. Number 7. Studying with constant background noise. You tell yourself you focus better with music. Maybe a podcast hums in the background, or a YouTube video plays on mute. The silence feels uncomfortable, too empty. So you fill it. You convince yourself that noise keeps your brain awake, but what it really does is divide it. Your brain isn't a multitasking machine, it's a spotlight, and every sound, Every lyric, every notification pulls that spotlight away, even for half a second. Each flicker costs you focus. It's like trying to read under a strobe light. The text never stands still long enough to sink in. Scientists call it cognitive switching. Each time your mind shifts from the book to the beat, it burns a few seconds reloading context. It doesn't feel like much, but over hours, it adds up to lost comprehension. You study longer, but learn less. You feel mentally exhausted, yet strangely empty, because your attention has been leaking the entire time. Music with lyrics is the worst offender. Your brain's language circuits get hijacked, juggling two inputs at once: the words you read and the words you hear. Even instrumental sounds can intrude when you're doing complex reasoning. The truth is harsh. Deep concentration demands silence, not stimulation. The world has trained us to fear quiet, but silence is the oxygen of thought. In silence, ideas expand. In noise, they suffocate. If you truly want to sharpen your intelligence, don't fight silence. Befriend it. Make your study space a sanctuary, not a concert hall. When the room finally goes still, you might feel uneasy. That's not boredom. That's your brain remembering what it's like to think without interference. And once you taste that clarity, background noise will feel like static over wisdom. Number 6. Overusing summary apps instead of deep reading. You scroll through an app that promises to condense a 400-page masterpiece into 5 crisp minutes. The dopamine hits instantly. I learned something. But you didn't. You just inhaled a fragrance of knowledge without ever lighting the fire. Summary apps and short explainers feel efficient. They flatter your productivity addiction. But here's the paradox. The more you optimize learning, the shallower it becomes. Compressed information cuts away the struggle, and the struggle is the muscle of intelligence. It's in wrestling with long paragraphs, following complex arguments, enduring boredom, that your brain learns to focus, connect, and think. When you only consume summaries, you inherit someone else's understanding. You don't explore, you rent conclusions. The author's metaphors, structure, rhythm, all the invisible bridges that build comprehension are gone. What remains are bones without marrow. You might recall the key points, but not the living system that gives them meaning. Real reading isn't just about collecting facts. It's about shaping how your mind perceives patterns. Deep reading expands empathy, attention span, patience, qualities no app can summarize. Every skipped page is a skipped neuron waiting to grow. It's not that summaries are evil, they're maps, but maps are useless if you never walk the terrain. Read the full book, wrestle with the author, let confusion irritate you until clarity blooms. That's where wisdom hides, not in the shortened version, but in the slow digestion of thought. Because in the end, shortcut learning creates shortcut minds. Fast, reactive, hollow, and the irony? You didn't save time. You just traded depth for speed. And the debt always returns in the form of shallow thinking. Number 5. Multitasking while studying. You convince yourself you're being efficient. Notes open on one tab, a lecture playing on another, phone lighting up beside you. You're switching fast, juggling tasks like a pro. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Multitasking isn't a skill. It's a slow form of self-sabotage dressed as productivity. The brain doesn't do two complex things at once. It switches between them, burning energy every time. Each shift costs attention, fragments memory, and fractures comprehension. You feel busy because your mind keeps restarting, but you're actually standing still. It's like trying to sprint while tying your shoes. You're in motion, but never moving forward. Research calls this the switching penalty. Every distraction, even a glance at your phone, can derail your focus for minutes. You might reread the same line 3 times, wondering why it won't stick. That's not stupidity. It's cognitive residue, the ghost of the last task haunting your new one. Multitasking also rewires your reward system. Your brain starts craving small hits of stimulation instead of deep immersion. You feel restless when studying one thing for too long. You scroll, click, jump, mistaking movement for mastery. But intelligence isn't built in motion, it's built in stillness. Monotasking, in contrast, is ruthless focus. It's picking one task, one problem, and sinking into it until time dissolves. That's how geniuses work. Not because they think faster, but because they think longer in one direction. So if you want your study sessions to feel lighter and smarter, kill the myth. Don't split your attention, sharpen it. Because the more you divide your mind, the less it belongs to you. Focus is not a habit anymore, it's an act of rebellion. Number 4. Studying only before exams, cramming. It starts the same way every time. The night before the exam, the panic sets in. Notes pile up, coffee brews, and your brain turns into a battlefield. You tell yourself, I work best under pressure. But that's not performance, it's survival. And survival burns intelligence faster than it builds it. Cramming feels powerful because it delivers short-term results. The brain floods with adrenaline and urgency, forcing temporary focus. But beneath that rush lies chaos. You're stuffing information into short-term memory, not weaving it into understanding. The data might stay for a day, maybe 2, but by the time you need to apply it in real life, it's gone. Learning isn't a sprint, It's a slow burn. Memory needs spacing, intervals that allow neural pathways to strengthen through rest and repetition. That's why spacing out your study sessions actually saves time. Each revisit to a topic carves it deeper into long-term storage. Cramming skips this cycle. It's like planting seeds the night before harvest. Impressive effort, zero growth. The irony? Cramming doesn't just weaken retention, it also trains your mind to associate learning with panic. Over time, studying becomes something your body fears. Your focus collapses because your brain links knowledge with exhaustion, not curiosity. True mastery is built in calm repetition, in quiet, daily revisits, not desperate all-nighters. Even 10 focused minutes a day beat 5 hours of frantic memorization. Because consistency teaches your mind discipline, while cramming teaches it desperation. So next time you're tempted to wait until the last night, remember this. Cramming may help you pass a test, but it will quietly make you fail the lesson. Intelligence isn't measured by how much you can memorize, but by how much you can still explain a month later. Number 3. Depending entirely on notes instead of concepts. Your notes look perfect. Bullet points, arrows, color codes. You feel organized, secure, ready. But here's the quiet trap. When your mind depends on notes, it forgets to think. You're memorizing someone else's snapshot instead of developing your own vision. Notes are meant to capture ideas, not replace them. When you reread them blindly, your brain becomes a photocopier, reproducing words without processing meaning. You know what was said, but not why it matters. The information feels yours, but the insight never arrived. Concepts, however, live beyond paper. They connect, collide, evolve. Understanding a concept means you can recreate it from scratch, even if every note is erased. That's how true intelligence works. It rebuilds. It doesn't recall. Depending only on notes is like living inside a photograph of life. Still, detailed, but dead. You become a collector of words, not a creator of thought. When the exam or the conversation asks for logic instead of memory, the illusion breaks. The notes can't save you because you never learn to think without them. The real purpose of notes is transformation, not transcription. Write to summarize, not to store. Annotate, argue, expand. Let your own sentences fight with the authors. The act of rewriting knowledge in your voice turns it from ink into intellect. So next time you finish taking notes, close them and try to teach the concept aloud. Not the words, but the meaning. If you can't, your notes aren't knowledge yet. They're scaffolding. And the moment you stop climbing them, your learning collapses. Number 2. Avoiding writing things down by hand. Typing feels faster, cleaner, efficient. You can record every word, every slide, every quote, effortlessly. But speed is deceptive. When you stop writing by hand, you stop thinking by hand. Because handwriting isn't just recording information, it's translating it through motion, reflection, and rhythm. The act of writing forces the brain to filter. You can't scribble as fast as a speaker talks, so you start summarizing, rephrasing, processing. That process, deciding what to keep and what to skip, is where comprehension is born. Each letter written by hand forms a tiny fingerprint of memory. You're not just noting information, you're embedding it. Typing, on the other hand, invites transcription without thought. It gives the illusion of productivity while numbing understanding. You end up with pages of perfect notes, but shallow recall. The screen becomes a mirror of your teacher's words, not a reflection of your own interpretation. Research shows students who handwrite remember far more even if they write less. Their brains build deeper semantic links because writing activates multiple regions: visual, motor, and cognitive. It's physical learning disguised as ink. You literally feel knowledge into existence. Avoiding handwriting is like skipping the workout and expecting muscles to grow. You may collect more information, but you develop less intelligence. Because learning isn't about what you store, it's about how you shape it. So, next time you reach for the keyboard, try reaching for a pen instead. Let your thoughts slow down. Let your hands struggle to keep up. The slower pace isn't inefficiency, it's depth. In that friction between thought and movement, real understanding ignites. Number 1. Copying examples without solving new problems. You watch the example, understand every step, and nod confidently. The formula works, the method is clear. You feel ready. But when the question changes even slightly, your mind freezes. It's not because you didn't study, it's because you only watched someone else think. Copying examples feels safe. It gives the illusion of progress, the comfort of knowing I can do this too. But what you're really doing is rehearsing imitation, not intelligence. You've memorized the road, not learned how to drive. True understanding begins only when the training wheels of example are gone. Examples are guides, not guardians. Their purpose is to reveal the logic, not to become the logic. When you rely only on them, your brain never learns to improvise, it learns to copy. You become excellent at repetition, but terrible at adaptation. The moment a problem takes a new shape, your memorized method collapses. Problem solving is about pattern recognition. finding the why behind the steps, not just the steps themselves. Each new problem you solve rewires your brain to think flexibly, to see beyond formulas and rules. Intelligence isn't the ability to follow instructions. It's the ability to invent them when none exist. Copying examples is like watching someone lift weights and expecting your muscles to grow. Learning requires strain, the uncomfortable silence of figuring it out yourself. That struggle, that frustration, is where neural growth begins. So after every example, close the book, twist the problem, change the numbers, the conditions, the goal, and force your brain to rebuild the solution. Because knowledge that only works inside examples isn't mastery, it's mimicry disguised as learning.